procrastination, criticizing others, and the inability to delegate. What do you think the root cause of these behaviors are? So one of the root causes of these behaviors that seem like they're not necessarily related, because like, what does perfectionism have to do with being hypercritical of others? And what does being hypercritical of others have to do with the inability to delegate? Well, I feel like those are kind of connected. But essentially all of these have the root cause of perfectionism, and this is why. So perfectionism is chronically tied to procrastination, because if you think about it, it makes perfect sense. Like, why would I get started on something if the bar is all the way up here? Like, oh my goodness, that's so overwhelming. Like, what am I even going to do? Like, where do you even start if the standards are that high? So it makes sense, because it's like there's so much fear. If the higher the bar, the more their fear. And so whenever someone sets such a high bar, they have a lot of fear, and then therefore they use procrastination as a way to avoid the fear, because fear feels awful, and humans, we typically hate fear. And so hypercriticism of others is a perfectionism trait as well. So instead of just focusing solely on your own perfectionism, you typically want other people to be perfect as well. Because the interesting thing about the mind is that oftentimes the way that we think about ourselves and the mechanisms of the mind that we use for ourselves, we use for others as well. It makes sense. It's thrifty. Like, why would you create a whole new neural network to think about other people? Just use the same one that you think about yourself. And so you can tell a lot about somebody the way they treat other people. So this is why when someone treats other people poorly, I always tell my own kids that, look, that's horrible. People should never act like that. But at the same time, you have to understand that their mental state is a hell, because only someone with an awful, awful mind would treat someone that way, because typically they're also treating themselves that way. So individuals who have perfectionism, they typically have it for themselves and for others. So if you see someone being super nitpicky and hypercritical of you, know that they're probably doing that to themselves as well. And so the inability to delegate. This obviously is kind of the most expected type of perfectionism trait. And it's because people just don't think you'll ever be able to do things as well as I can do it. Because if I have perfectionism, I know that I'm going to do everything in my power to do something perfectly, and other people just don't function that way necessarily. And so I need that control in order to know that things will be done well and they will be done right. And so if you have that type of kind of mentality, that's probably perfectionism. So I hope this video doesn't come off judgy of people who have perfectionistic mindsets, because I've definitely been guilty as well. But I'm hoping that this does help individuals who have these behaviors understand what the root cause is. Because once you work on your perfectionism and you kind of become less rigid in your mind when it comes to your standards, then you can let go of some of these behaviors and you can feel so much better. And interestingly enough, you typically perform better as well, because you're not so kind of self-sabotaging with all the perfectionism. So again, if this is you, feel free to schedule an intro session in my bio. We can chat about it. We can learn more about how to overcome your perfectionism so that you can do more and feel better at the same time.